Hello, I'm David DeCosmo. Welcome to ECTV Live. Our guest today, Julie Estey, who is with the Dearly Departed Players, and we bring Julie in at every time. This time of the year is the time, because the Dearly Departed Players is an organization, and I want to call them thespians. I want to call them historians, and I guess those two terms in this case are interchangeable. And they invite you to come on 2 different dates to a tour of the Dunmore Cemetery. So visiting a cemetery in October would suggest a Halloween theme. That's not the case. This truly is an eye-opening look at the stories of some of the, shall I call them, residents of the Dunmore Cemetery. Julie, you've been doing this how long now?
This is my 22nd year.
22nd year.
Yes, that's a long time.
Obviously, everyone buried in that cemetery, as with every other cemetery, has a story. But most of us don't know those stories. If it's someone who was extremely prominent, we might know something about them. But you've managed to look into the lives of people that, were it not for the Dearly Departed Players, we'd never know about.
Right.
But again, it's not a Halloween theme. It's not a ghost tour of a cemetery. But I bet you've come up with some ghostly stories.
Over the years, I've seen some things that were quite interesting and made me wonder, but it is not a ghost tour. It's a historical walking tour, but it's definitely not a lecture.
Okay, this year the dates for the tour, when?
October 6th and 13th at 2:00 p.m. That's when the tour will begin. We suggest people get there about 1:20, 1:15, 1:20, so that they can get parking spots and get into the cemetery.
And it's free of charge?
It is free of charge. The only thing that we ask is, if folks are able, that they bring with them a non-perishable food item that goes to the food pantries.
Okay, well, that's really a win-win situation.
Right.
And they get the tour and hear these stories, but people at the food pantry get the benefit of those donations. One of the interesting things, one of the challenges of doing the program is that we want to talk about the tour, the significance of the stories, but we don't want to give everything away. So for a little bit of our discussion today, we're going to talk about previous tours, because that information is already out there. So give us an idea, if you can, without revealing this year's surprises, as to some of the stories that you've been able to depict in years gone by.
Over the years, we've depicted everything from ladies of the evening to the very wealthy in this valley. We've covered crime, accidents, tours that had no theme at all, which is what this one is this year. It's a potluck tour. And, as you said, everyone here has and had a story. And it is my job to find those stories and bring those people to life. And we've got some very interesting characters, or personas, this year on the tour, with very interesting, significant messages that are relative to our lives today. If you think the stuff that's happening to us today is new, it's not. It all happened before, and we're all going to make it.
Now that I find hard to believe.
Oh, no.
Only because of the change in eras and change in technology over the years. And yet I remember you telling me you had done some things about people killed by streetcars.
Yes, which people still do have, get hit by cars, or if you're not paying attention, you could meet your untimely demise out there.
But some did it during the days when the Electric City was earning its nickname as the Electric City, with the trolley cars.
The trolley cars. Well, it was new. People had to adapt to, the fact that this was going to come rolling along. It's just like with the third rail. People didn't realize initially that there was such a problem, and then it became a thing where parents educated their children about the third rail with the railroad tracks and the dangers of electrocution.
Right.
And then another generation comes along, and the parents figure, well, their children already know about it. Well, they had to start telling them all over again that you've got to stay away from this third rail. So everything comes around, it runs in cycle. It's just the technology. The players and technology have changed, but it's still the same.
The stories, only the names have been changed.
Right,
to protect
only the
innocent,
names have been changed.
As they used to say.
One thing that's interesting this year is I believe that October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. We're going to address that this year.
All right.
We have a young lady who died at the age of 23 in the 1880s of breast cancer. And through her, she talks about prevention and what her options were. And we introduce a very interesting persona that's on a national level that dealt with breast cancer. But the twist on this person, really relates to a lot of things today. We're going to keep that a surprise. But we're very proud of the direction that particular scene takes this year. It's going to be a nice, interesting surprise for people, when they hear how it works out.
Now, you do and have been doing all these years some extensive research into these stories. You are complemented in your presentation by a group of volunteers that really they are thespians.
Yes.
We have not really spent a lot of time over our past sessions talking about this supportive cast. I wonder if you'd tell us a little bit about some of them and how they're involved and why they're involved in this. It's not a money-making thing for them.
We love what we do. And we always say that the planets lined up when we came together as a group. We all get along very well. We all support each other. Each one of us has our little knack. Nelson is our electronics guy. He's our computer wizard. Carl Barbie has performed all over the world. So Carl helps in a lot of different ways. Wendy is very level-headed. Like, she looks at things and she'll say, well, maybe we should do things this way. We have been joined this year by some younger folks who have amazing talents that they learned at the University of Scranton with their theater group. We have James Worthington with us from the U of S, Amy Black. They're bringing their talents. Krista Gaskill and Maggie Roach have come from other groups, and as Dana Jackson and Kevin Burke, and they bring with them stage combat, which we've used that. It's nice to be able to do some really cool gags with them. Just everybody in this group works together, and we enjoy each other's company. We enjoy what we do. The dearly departed players are not just a group of thespians or historians. We are a community-friendly group, and the cemetery is a community-friendly space. And we love every minute of what we're doing.
It's something we've talked about once before in this program, that cemeteries really used to be a gathering place for families.
Yes.
Not just at the time of internment for a relative, but picnics used to be held in cemeteries.
Yes, and some of our cast, Wendy, I'm sure Dr. Powell from the Carbondale Historical Society, I'm sure there was a time when they actually did picnic in cemeteries. So it's nice to have people come back and remember the folks who were on that corner of Warren and Church Street in Dunmore.
I remember from previous tours that a lot of costumes are involved in the presentation. In a sense, we're almost seeing a stage show that moves.
Yes, it's Promenade Theater.
Okay.
We go from one stop to another. The costumes this year were interesting. They were a challenge this year because, of course, you've got 14 people, and from year to year, our bodies change. We're aging, we're getting younger, we're getting bigger, we're getting smaller, so the costumes were a little bit of a challenge this year. One thing that we did was we moved into the future. People are going to find out now that some of the dearly departed players, the ladies, have legs. Because for years we've been covered in hoop skirts and long dresses, and this year we moved into the 20s, 30s, and 40s.
Okay.
So you're going to see some interesting costume changes, and that has been a great weight lifted off of us because we had, for years we had all these clothes on, and now we're moving into some newer styles, and we're embracing it. We're enjoying it a great deal.
Now, if you are going to be taking part in either of these walking tours, you want to come prepared for that as well. First of all, don't worry about hearing people, even though you're out in the open. You've got that covered.
We have an amazing sound system that last year traveled through the tour in a Victorian baby carriage. This year it is going through really high tech. We got a garden wagon, a really nice garden wagon. Because keep in mind, there's no electricity in the cemetery.
Right.
We're battery powered. So that's how we move through the cemetery with the garden wagon and the sound system. But yes, you can hear.
Okay, and this is a leisurely tour. It's not something where someone comes and they've got to really walk 2 miles in a space of 20 minutes to see this thing.
No, you walk through, you hear a story, you move to the next stop, and there have been times when we've had up to 800 people on a tour. So you have to wait for those people to get where they're going.
Sure.
And then we wait for everybody to stop, and that's when the next persona will address the crowd. So you do have time to take a break. Some people do bring chairs. And if they have difficulties, then they will set their chair up and they will sit and listen to that.
If you like carrying chair,
Yes.
that's no problem.
Yes.
One of those things you use at to watch a soccer game or something.
Yes.
You bring that along, you
Yes.
fold it up in a second, carry it with you, and
Yeah.
put it down again.
And the tour this year, I think, is probably going to run about 2.5 hours.
Okay.
I think there's 15 stops. And there will be a gun salute this year done by American Legion Post 665. They're sending their honor guard out for a soldier that we're going to address this year, which that will be a nice moment on the tour.
Yeah, and without giving away the total story of the individual involved, your group has become in a major effort that you can use some public support on. Would you tell us what you're trying to do and why it's so important?
20 years ago, I discovered that we had a man in the cemetery who was a member of Merrill's Marauders. They were a unit in World War II who crossed Burma behind the Japanese.
There was a motion picture about that.
Yes, there was a motion picture made about them. I believe when the Marauders started out, there were about 2,000 of them. When they finished their mission, only a little over 100 of them were still fit for service because, of course, they encountered malaria. It turns out that in addition to Mr. Nicholson, who we have in the Dunmore Cemetery, who was a member of Merrill's Marauders, there were 5 other gentlemen from the Lackawanna Valley, from Scranton, who were also Marauders.
Ah.
So that made a total of 6. 5 of them came from one neighborhood in West Side. Now, on a national level, Merrill's Marauders, the survivors, of which there are 9 remaining nationally, have been looking to receive a unit citation. They don't want money, they don't want benefits, they want recognition, they want a unit citation for the group.
As their unit, their
Yes,
group.
yes. Every one of them did get a Bronze Star when they were finished with the mission, but they're looking to get a Congressional Gold Medal Act attached to their unit. So the dearly departed players had 3,000 petitions asking for support for H.R. 906 and Senate Bill 743 for the Merrill's Marauders Congressional Gold Medal Act. And we will have these petitions to be signed on tour days in the cemetery. Since 6 of these gentlemen volunteered and were from the Lackawanna Valley, Scranton area, we believe that we need to help them. And we have been doing very well in obtaining signatures backing these gentlemen. Again,
Before the tour is even conducted, you've already been able
yes, yes. In fact, we've heard from Senator Toomey's office. They're waiting for us to show up with the signed petitions, and we are heading in their direction. But we will have petitions available on tour days for people to sign. I've been informed that some descendants of Merrill's Marauders will be out there. The dearly departed players actually made the Stars and Stripes newspapers for their efforts in helping Merrill's Marauders on a national level. They were our boys. They're our band of brothers. We need to help them.
Yeah, well, this is certainly an easy thing to do
Yeah,
if you're enjoying the tour in any case. They'll have these little yellow cards
Or letters.
available, and you can sign this and then put your address on the back, which will then be presented to the senator,
Yes.
I gather, and they carry it on from there. It's certainly a worthwhile cause. I've already lent my signature to that because this is important. No guarantee, of course.
That they're going to do it, but we're going to try.
You do what you can.
We're going to try.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's amazing that while you don't deal with military stories all the time, that you've certainly had some in the past, including some folks buried here who were Civil War veterans.
Yes.
And I believe you did focus on that 1 or 2 years ago, or you had some of them.
Yes, we did. This year, the gun salute is happening for a young gentleman who is buried in the Dunmore Cemetery, who had interesting ties to National Baseball, but an American Legion post is named for him in Hibbings, Minnesota. And since the Legion Post is named for him in Hibbings, Minnesota, and they can't really do anything for him, American Legion 665 has stepped up, and they're going to do the gun salute for him after his talk on the tour this year.
Oh, that's great.
So that's really nice, one post helping another.
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah, we have some nice moments planned this year on the tour.
What, and without any of the big surprises of this year, any particular story that really stands out in your mind from years gone by that either surprised you a lot or surprised everybody on the tour so much that the jaws dropped and such?
All of them. I love them all. The Zimmers who got killed in the wreck of the Lackawanna in 1912, always stands out.
Wreck of the Lackawanna?
Yeah, it was a train crash. They have a pyramid stone, and the Zimmers died on 4th of July, 1912, together. And the Zimmers are pretty much recognizable everywhere they go. Nelson Wood has been portraying John Zimmer now for probably 17 years. I'm his lovely wife, Teresa Zimmer, and we fight because it's his fault, of course, that we're dead. If we hadn't gone away for his business, we would still be alive. In fact, we were at a wonderful haunt this past weekend promoting the tour, and actually it was Reaper's Revenge. They invited us to come up and promote the tour, and the Zimmers went, and we did our train crash thing, and we just love them. We love them. They not only have been an incredible teaching tool, the public just loves them. And we've gotten a lot of joy from portraying them, a lot of laughs over the years from portraying them.
And again, this is all research that you've done. You've gone there. Do you go there and find a stone and say, gee, I wonder what this person was or what they did, and then you go to a library and look up the name? Or?
That's how it started. I used to be on the tour out there for another organization, and I was sitting on a tombstone one day waiting for the tour to come around, and I just looked at them and it's like, who are you and what did you do? And just wondering who they were and what they did opened the floodgates. And now the research is 20 years in file cabinets throughout my house, 20 years worth of costumes that are now wonderful insulation for my attic because they're stacked up. And it's just been an amazing adventure.
Well, are there any actual scary stories?
Yes.
There are.
Yes, I could do.
You could do.
We are addressing Scranton Reads, the Albright Memorial Library is reading what many would consider to be a horror book. At least it's been addressed that way in films. Scranton Reads this year is reading Frankenstein. And I did find a story from the past of the Lackawanna Valley that fits very well with that theme. So that is going to be presented, and I consider
the characters always fascinated me. Of course, in my case, my association with it goes back to seeing, Boris Karloff in the original Frankenstein movies. But to think that novel, and it was a novel, written by a young woman.
Yes.
Mary Shelley, I believe, and that's. And in her environment was also the young man that came up with Dracula. So
yes, great. I'm so thrilled that they're reading that this year, Scranton Reads. So help the library out, the Albright Memorial Library. Go on down and participate in Scranton Reads this year.
Yeah. Now, one of the things that I'm impressed about is when one comes on this tour, again, they get a story, so they get the drama, the humor involved in that story. But by doing so, they also get the history of that particular person, that particular family, and such. And you are making an effort, and I know this isn't the first time you've done it, to, apart from your 2 regular tours, to make sure that the young people in the area
Yes.
are exposed to some of this.
Yes.
Explain that, what you're doing, and
On Friday, the 27th, I believe that's this upcoming Friday,
Right.
we will be seeing 100 school students from the Dunmore schools. And of course, the school is right next to the cemetery, so it's a great field trip for them. We did it last year. We had great results with it. So the school wanted to continue it this year. And I believe when they're finished in the cemetery, they are heading over to the Dunmore Historical Society. So the school students are going to get a good day of local history there. And it's something that really needs to be done in all of our schools.
local history is not really taught.
It is not taught anymore, and it needs to be. So it's nice to see these fresh young faces coming through the cemetery gates.
You must get 100 questions from them.
They're wonderful. The school students are absolutely wonderful. I had such a good time last year, and the teacher had them write notes back to us, letting us know what they learned from the tour, what they thought of it. And some of the comments that we got back, you know, it really makes what we do.
Yeah, what
worth it.
age are you talking about?
They're 8th graders. They're 8th graders, the kids.
It's interesting. I'm asked to give a talk on the Titanic every
Yeah.
year at a charter school in Luzerne County, and you know I have a little connection with that history there, but they're a little younger, and it's interesting the questions that
Yeah.
come back, especially those that think I was there covering it. You know?
Yeah, no.
And some of them,
No, school kids are great. Love dealing with them.
some of
I
them
do-
must think you were there as well for
Yeah.
these.
Oh, yeah.
I'd love to even see that expanded. Do you get young people on the regular tour?
Oh, yes. Yes. In fact,
Excuse me.
many years, teachers would assign the tour as extra credit.
Ah,
And I would have to sign programs showing that they were there.
probably do a report on it then.
And they would do, yes, they would do, some teachers used to have their students do reports on it. We are reaching all ages now. It's wonderful for us to look out in the audience and see people who have brought their children with strollers. We're reaching people from all over the country now. They're coming.
You said you get people from quite a distance.
Last year we had people come all the way from Canada. And
Wow.
they did not come here for something else, which is what I thought. They came here specifically
for the
that tour. Yes. They were coming from all
I'm
over the
really
country.
surprised that more organization, I understand the work and the effort involved, but I'm really surprised some other organizations in other areas haven't followed suit, because you're concentrating on one cemetery. It's a huge cemetery.
Yes.
It's a very historic cemetery
Yes.
in terms of its longevity. But by the same token, there are others around, and you know, that have all these many stories that we don't know about, unless.
Well, sometimes I incorporate them now.
Oh, you do? Okay.
It's not just, the majority of people on the tour are from Dunmore, but I do incorporate people now due to the wonderful receipt of a Lackawanna County Arts and Culture grant. I started incorporating
That's
people
great.
from, yes,
That's great.
and we cannot thank the Lackawanna Arts and Culture Group enough, but we have started incorporating other cemeteries into Dunmore. So you will get other personas.
That's good. And again, I would encourage other groups in other areas. And I think right away of Wilkes-Barre and Florence Foster Jenkins,
Yes.
who now we know about because Meryl Streep portrayed her in a movie, and there was publicity about the movie and consequently about the character. But I didn't know about her before then. A would-be opera singer who was not particularly good at all, but because she wasn't particularly good, people went to see her and sort of put up with her and gave her some acclaim. And how many more of those stories are out there?
Yeah. You just have to find them.
Literally buried.
Buried. Every one of us is a story, and it's my job to find it. We also,
Do people suggest things to you now?
yes, they do.
Families must
Yes,
know
they
of
do.
of stories
Yes, they
that
do. They submit
they've
them.
heard about.
And of course, I am always open to that if it fits into the theme. You know, if they submit information to me, I save it. It goes in a file folder or whatever. And if I have permission, you know, there might be a time when I use that. And this year, I do want to mention that we are going to have some wonderful folks exhibiting with us against Scranton Reads, and VNA Hospice. Hospice is going to exhibit with us because their connection, Mrs. Henry Martine Boyes, was their founder.
Oh.
So they're going to be out there with us exhibiting this year.
Oh, this is great.
So
and
there's stuff for people to do before the tour.
yeah, yeah. And again, you're going to have the petitions available, hopefully to eventually get a unit citation for Merrill's Marauders. Once again, the dates for this year's tour.
October 6th and 13th at 2:00 p.m. Folks should arrive early. They should wear comfortable shoes, you know, because they're going to be walking.
The need for reservations?
No.
No?
No, they just need to show up. Admission is free. If they can bring a non-perishable for the food pantries, we would appreciate it.
Well, I commend you for all the work that you and the players have been doing and continue to do. It's one thing to happen to read something in history that is about local people. It's another thing to
Be
have
them.
to be them, as it
To be
were,
them.
as the dearly departed players take on those roles,
Yes.
and they know the story. So enjoy it. It's a great way to begin October in our area. Julie Estey, thank you so much for joining us again. On behalf of the dearly departed players, Mark McGlory, thank you so much for your behind-the-scenes work. I'm David DeCosmo for ECTV Live. Until we see you again next time, here's hoping all your news is good.